naira.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you remove your transportation, your feeding and what's not, unforeseeable savings, right? You put them aside. And then let's say you want to put money aside, 1 year rent. How long can a tenant put money aside if they're being paid 7,000 naira a month to be able to afford 1.5 million to 2.5 million yearly in rent?
Now, looking at the analysis, it is already very clear that it's not even achievable. Now, this is the reason why a lot of times we have people not even paying their rent from their salaries. You now see people looking out for loan facilities, running helter-skelter, looking for where to borrow money just to pay rent. I mean, and then what is more disturbing about this report is it's not just the fact that these people are paying so much for rent. The fact that you're paying so much and then you're not even getting the value of your money in return. Now we have a lot of residents saying that most of this where they are paying as much as 1.5 million, 2 million, do not even meet the basic standards of comfortability. Most of them have leaking roofs. A lot of them do not even have a standard water supply. So you now have to depend on daily water vendors, or you now have to trek long distances to get water. And then it is not just like this rent is high and that's what it is. The fact that they keep increasing it. It is high, and you know that in the next month, in the next year, there is every possibility that it is still going to be increased again. And then this increment does not even come as a result of renovations. And sometimes, even when the landlords tell you, oh, we are doing a renovation, when you check what they did, and you check the money that is being added as a result of the renovation, it is not even comparable. We have a lot of factors leading to this menace, one of which is the rate at which people now troop into these urban areas. Everybody wants to leave the village. Lagos is a case study, but then we know that this is not only happening in Lagos. It is happening everywhere, even right here in Port Harcourt. We have people lamenting on this issue of overhiking of house rent. Like I was trying to say, one of the reasons is everybody now wants to come out to the city. Nobody wants to stay in the village again. And then we now have it that we have more people trooping in, and then we have less housing facilities. The houses are not enough. And so people now, landlords are now seizing this opportunity. They are taking advantage of this opportunity to milk these tenants dry. Now, apart from the landlords, you know, we also have one of the causes, which is greed from the agents, the housing agents. You see, some agents, as much as I know, even go as far as coercing the landlords to increase the rent just so their agencies could be increased. Now, prior to this time, agency fee used to be 5%, and then it was raised to 10%. Nobody talked about it. And then currently we have people charging as much as 20% for agency. So imagine you're paying for a bedroom flat in Port Harcourt. You're paying for a room and a bedroom in Port Harcourt, and then the rent is already 2 million. Paying an additional agent's fee of 20%, and then you still have to pay legal fees. Some people even ask for drink money. A lot of irrelevant charges attached to the main house rent. And so we now have this over-bloated rent. Now, some persons will even tell you that, oh, the cost of building materials are now high, cement is now like this. But then, is it even true? Some of these houses with this overhyped prices are not even newly built houses. We have houses that have been built for 10 years, 20 years, 15 years, and then we still see the landlords increasing the rents. And I get to ask them, did you just build this house? Did you also buy the expensive building materials? It is quite understandable when people who have built new houses come to say, oh, cost of building material is high. We spend so much money, and so we have to recover the money. Fine, it's a bit understandable. But even that is questionable. I mean, let's say you spent a lot of money to put up this structure. Are you supposed to recover all the money from just 1 year rent? That is not how it's done. The rent is supposed to be spread across the number of years that the house... And then we have houses that once a house is built, that house can stay there for 50 to 100 years, depending on the quality of the materials. So you're supposed to spread it across that way and not wanting to recover the entire money in 1 year rent. A lot of persons will tell you, oh, the house is POP. And I ask, are we even asking for the POP? Can't we do it? Some persons just need a roof over their head, and then they just put POP, and then they over. Even here in Port Harcourt, we have one-room apartments as expensive as 500,000, 700,000, and the question is how? And the fact that salaries are not increasing, and then we have the minimum wage, as you rightly stated, at 70,000, and then someone is forced to pay as much as 500,000 for a room. At the end of the day, you now see that people work for an entire year just to afford money to pay just rent. So by the time you remove the rent for 1 year, you now see that, oh, for the entire year, you just worked for the landlord. It is not even making sense. It is not, at least in Port Harcourt, if you want to compare the situation in Port Harcourt to the one in Lagos, at least the expensive houses are quite accommodating. We have very nice houses. When the house is expensive, when you check the quality, fine, it's working to an extent, although I still stand on the fact that it is still too expensive. But we now have the case of Lagos, where these houses are not even worth the price. Some of the residents were even complaining that they don't even give you a long notice. Sometimes we have just 2 weeks notice, and then the next thing, the landlord is at your door. And then when you try to complain, they ask you to pack out. And the bitter truth is, once you move out, there are people who will still take those houses in that same condition. And what does this tell us? The residents, the tenants, they do not even have a lot of options. That is why it is like that. As bad as these houses are, you still see people going for them. You still see people going to manage. And at this point, I really do think that the government really, really needs to come to intervene for the tenants. We need government low-cost housing provisions. In these states where landlords are now becoming demigods, just because they have seen the vulnerability of these people. We have a lot of persons in these states, and the housing provisions are not enough. And then we see the landlord seizing the opportunity, taking advantage of the opportunity, and posing to be demigods. If the government should step in and then make provisions for low-cost housing facilities, I think this will be reduced. And also, apart from provision of the low-cost housing facilities, there should be rules put in place that says this amount should go for a room apartment. It shouldn't exceed this. The government should put up regulations, should put people in charge that will oversee tenancy and renting activities across the state. A state as Lagos, where we are having this kind of ugly report, as well as Port Harcourt, where we are, because if it's almost the same thing, we need intervention of the state government. They should come. And then we should have a situation that, okay, this is the approved fixed amount for a one-bedroom apartment. Nothing below, nothing more. This should be the fixed amount for a two-bedroom apartment, nothing more. And then you as a tenant, when you now go to the landlord, you go to get the apartment and they tell you otherwise. They should provide a body where you can go and report these people to. And the houses should be locked up if possible. Because if you ask me, I mean, except the government steps in, this is not what is going to come to an end anytime soon. Because imagine, let's look at it this way. Imagine someone who has been a tenant for 5 years and have been milked dry by these greedy landlords, and then now become a tenant, you now have your own house. You would also want to do to the others what was done to you. Because, I mean, there are a lot of persons, it takes a grace and a high level of discipline to say, oh, this that I suffered from landlords, my tenants are not going to go through this from me. But believe me, majority of persons would want to net out what was meted out to them while they were tenants. And it continues that way, which it's bad.
All right. I think you actually made a few key points, but at the end of the day, like you rightfully pointed out, it's about government policies. Now let's take a look at the convenience. In economics, we have something called demand and supply. Okay. You stated that the people are trooping in from, the villages into the city, from, the rural areas into the urban communities. Why is that? Because these rural areas lack the basic amenities some of these urban houses or urban homes or urban communities have. You cannot compare Lagos State, the kind of life Lagos State has to offer to, let's say for example, with what's happening in the northern states right now, insecurity. If you have the means and you know that you have the means to cater for your family right outside of that community, you would obviously not want to have your family living in there, knowing fully well that at any point in time you could be attacked. Other than insecurity, some rural communities lack basic amenities like water. Yes, Lagos State is complaining scarcity of water, but they still know how to go about it. They can either buy water, they can
don't you think it's even easier to fix this issue? In some of these rural areas, we have wells, which we do not have in Lagos.
These streams and wells that you're talking about, how treated are these streams? Lagos State is complaining of bad water. Okay, it's not that they don't have water, they have water, but the water is bad, it's discolored. Right, but they still have means, they have filters.
They are complaining that they do not have water at all. So they have to get
hold on, when I say they do not have water, like I said, scarcity. Those that even have it is discolored. Why they say they do not have water is because the water being provided for them, the quality of that water is bad. I've lived in Lagos State for some time. Okay. All right, so the only way you can do that is either you buy your own water. Some people even use sachet water or bottled water to take the shower and whatnot. Because the water is not clean. It's not something that you can it's discolored. Let me just put it that way. Now, what I'm trying to say is this. First of all, the government has to be held responsible, because if these rural communities have stable electricity, they have good water, they have good amenities, they have good roads, they have good schools and hospitals, they will not see the need to want to troop into the urban communities, because they have everything they need to make that life comfortable. Also, even the people living in the urban communities as well will want to also go to these rural areas, because again, not just Lagos, the urban communities, Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, these places are like high zones or more opportunities, better amenities and what's not. It's more exposed, and all that is safer, it's secure as compared to the rural communities. So obviously they want to be there. But if we have rural communities that it's almost like a town, that the basic amenities is taken care of. We have entrepreneurs who wants to go there because they want to solve problems over there. We have agripreneurs, they want to be there, they want to have a in Lagos.
Hikes. And you know that one of the reasons why a lot of persons, everybody wants to stay in the town is because they believed they have the greener pastures there. Okay, we have employment opportunities and everybody wants to go there. But if I think that if the government provides accessible roads from the urban areas, from the rural areas that leads to these urban areas, we now have people that can go to work in the urban areas from these villages. So we now have low-cost transportation facilities that can take you right from that village straight to your workplace without you necessarily relocating from that rural area to the urban settlement.
That's also very, very true. So let's look at our transportation system as well. Well, this is where we wrap it up on this episode of Anchor's Chat. We are open for adverts placements, bookings, and news event coverage, as well as commercials. You can also watch us live on our website, www.atlanticnetwork.tv, on Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Avo TV platform, Niger TV, Ifastech TV platform. You can also connect with us on all our ATN socials, Facebook and YouTube, by subscribing and sharing. Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic Network 1. X Atlantic TV Net. Remember, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching. I am Antonia Arceville.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics.